Hi ladies, today I'm gonna show you a simple everyday makeup look. It's what I'm wearing on my face currently, and I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks on how to achieve this look. All right, so the first step to any makeup routine is gonna be skincare and prepping your skin. I've already washed my face and exfoliated, but I wanted to include this step in it because it's so important. In the fall and in the winter, I still apply a sunscreen. So I just use this Cerave daily moisturizer. I get this at Target. And I'm gonna apply this before I set the foundation, and I'm gonna let it sink in first. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so I'm letting the sunscreen soak into my skin before I apply any more makeup. But really quickly, I wanted to talk about the Real Techniques Beauty Sponge. I get these at Target. They're pretty inexpensive, but I just wanted to give a quick tip. So the point of these is to soak up any excess foundation, any excess makeup sitting on the skin. So you want to make sure that they get nice and big, and you do that by just running it under water and letting it soak up any water. I am going to use this to apply my foundation next. I'm going to use the Rare Beauty foundation and the Ilia foundation, and this one actually has SPF in it as well, and it'll just add that extra protection to your skin. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do that. So I've just done my foundation using my beauty blender, and I'm also going to use it to do my concealer. I'm going to use the e.l.f. Camo Concealer, and I'm gonna do that next, and I'll show you guys how I apply it. So I've just got a concealer that's a shade lighter than the foundation that I use. You don't want anything too bright. It'll just kind of blur you out a little bit. So I'm gonna put this underneath my eyes here, on my forehead, and on my chin, and a little bit on the nose. Okay, so I've just applied the concealer. I don't like to go overboard with concealer. I like to keep the skin pretty natural. I'm just gonna go ahead and set my concealer now, but not too much. I'm gonna use the Laura Mercier translucent powder. I don't use a colored powder because I find that it makes it look a little cakey. This will keep your skin looking natural. I'm just gonna apply it in those same areas that I applied the concealer. I'm gonna go ahead and use a little brush. You can use any kind of brush. You can also use a fluffy brush if you do want to do it all over the face. But I'm just going to go ahead today and use this, and you'll see how I do that. Okay, so I've just applied the powder all over my face. I took a little bit of the excess powder and put it on my cheeks just because we are gonna be using some more powder products. If you have oilier skin, you might wanna set the entire face. I have pretty dry skin, especially right now in the cooler months. So I just like to use a little bit of powder and not too much because I find that my skin can just look really, really dry. But if you're oilier, feel free to use however much powder you feel comfortable with. So next up, I'm gonna do some bronzer just to warm the face back up because we're looking pretty flat and we want some dimension in the skin. So I'm gonna use a couple of bronzers because I like to mix them. I'm gonna use the Benefit Hoola bronzer and a little bit of bronzer from MAC. I'm gonna show you guys how I like to apply that. I just use like any fluffy, like smaller brush that's a little bit round on the top. But I know we all have our different go-to bronzer brushes, so use whatever you're comfortable with, but I am gonna show you where I apply that. So you'll see right where your ear starts is pretty much above that is where your cheekbone is for most people. So if you feel that bone, I like to apply it right on that bone rather than underneath it. So I'll show you how I do it. I'm gonna start with the Hoola bronzer first. Okay, cool. So I've just applied all of my bronzer. I apply it here in the forehead, on my cheekbone, a little bit on the neck because you wanna make sure that your face is not darker than your neck. You wanna blend that down. And then a little bit on the nose here. And something that I wanted to share too is making sure that you are using the right tone for your skin. Again, if you are much paler than I am, you probably wanna go for a more cool toned bronzer. This might look just orange on you, but for my skin tone, it works. So just pay attention to what kind of color you're using. But next I'm gonna use some blush here, and I'm just gonna use a pretty neutral pink blush from MAC. I find that this color can just go with any look, so I'm gonna show you how I apply that. All right, so I've just applied my blush. I kept it to the apples of my cheeks and kind of move it on higher up the cheekbone, because the more you apply your makeup in an upward direction, your face is gonna look more lifted rather than dragged down. So I like to make sure that I'm stamping the products on rather than like rubbing in the blush. And that applies to bronzer too. You wanna use a stamping motion, and you'll see that in the clips of me applying the makeup, because if you were to rub the makeup, that can move around the foundation that you've just laid down. So just be gentle while you're working with your blush and with your bronzer. All right, so next up, I'm gonna use a highlighter, and I'm gonna use this Hourglass highlighting palette. It's not so much like a glittery highlight, it's more of a natural highlight, which is what I prefer. It doesn't have any chunks of glitter. It's more like a luminosity that you're gonna add to your makeup look, and I'll show you how I apply that. Okay, so I've just applied highlighter. I kept it pretty simple. I like to just put it where the light hits. So if you've got lights in your room right now, you can kind of shift your face and see, okay, the light is hitting me right here on my cheeks, up here on my eyebrows a little bit, and on the nose, just where the natural light hits. Because if you put it here, it's gonna look pretty unnatural in different lighting. So just make sure you're paying attention to that. This is supposed to be a pretty quick everyday tutorial. I don't wear eyeshadow every day, but something that I like to do to blend in and pull the look together is apply the same bronzer that I used on my face to my eyes and keep it really simple. Again, just adding dimension, but looking natural. So I'm gonna go ahead and use, again, the Hoola bronzer from Benefit, and I'll just show you how I apply that really quickly. Okay, so I've just applied my eyeshadow. I just use a regular old eyeshadow brush, and I kept it just to the corners and the crease of my eye. And again, I'm not gonna apply anything else other than the bronzer. I like to keep the eye pretty matte, so I'm not gonna use any shimmers or anything like that. But if you wanted to, you could take that same highlight shade and apply it to the lid just to really pull everything together. But for fall, I really love a matte eye, so I'm gonna keep it like this. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and apply some eyebrow products. I'm just gonna use a pencil and a little bit of a gel. This is a tinted brow gel, just because I like to set the hairs in place, but you don't have to use that. That's just an extra step. I'll go ahead and show you how I do that. Okay, so I've just applied my eyebrows, and that's typically the step that takes the longest. And I know I look a little crazy, they look a little dark right now, but I'm gonna go ahead and apply some mascara. I just use the L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Paradise. Again, I get this at Target. And I don't like to apply eyeliners on a day-to-day basis, so I'm just gonna apply the mascara and go from there. Okay, so I've just applied my mascara, and the last step is gonna be the lips, but I'm gonna start with a lip liner. I like to use one that's pretty similar to my natural lip color. So I'm gonna use the NYX Lip Pencil. I also just get this at Target, and I'm gonna show you how I apply that. All right, so last step is gonna be the final lip color. I'm just going with a lip oil, but you can use whatever lipstick you use every day. And with the lip liner, I wanted to say really quickly that I just follow my natural lip line, and I'm gonna do the same thing with this. I don't like to overline. I just wanna keep it natural. So I'm gonna apply my lip oil. All right, ladies, and that is the finished look. We kept it pretty simple for an everyday fall look, and I hope you enjoyed and learned some new tips and tricks. Thank you for watching.